pleasure to know him all these years, and to hear that famous phrase, "How's your courage?"
I just, Nathan, you're right. Jim was one and I wanted to sing one more duet with him, but I guess I'll have to wait to heaven. May we all be faithful and forward to that. It's happening soon.
Well, my name is Ivan, and Jim and I go way back, well, it was the early 60s when I first met him, and he'd come from Montana, and he felled trees out there, and my oldest brother met him, and he says, "You cut trees?" He asked Jim. Jim says, "Yeah, I can cut them." Well, you know, that guy, I got to say, was probably the best timber fouler I have ever met. He could, and he told about one day he was up in the mountains with this, working for this company, and the wind was blowing, and when he tried to fall a tree, it wanted to come set back on him, set back. So he kept going farther right back and farther back until he had 65 trees already cut up, and then none of them going down. And he found this one tree that when it hit that first one, and it made just like dominoes. All 65 trees fell. Took the whole, it looked like a couple acres it took down. But I worked with Jim many years up on the mountains. He got into his fencing and post and pole, and so I went over and I helped build a road, and I'd run his loader for him and bring these logs out. But I see a picture up here of the dog. What was the name of that dog?
Schmooter.
Huh?
Schmooter.
I got the biggest kick out of him. When we would go up to head up to the log where we were logging, we'd camp down at town. This dog liked to stick his head out the side of the pickup and grab branches along the road. And so Jim would kind of move over so the dog could do this. And there was one bush every time we went up, and it was a dead bush, and it was real hard. And we knew what was going to happen, and that dog, he saw it coming, and he'd start howling. But he wasn't going to quit. He was going to grab that stick anyway, that branch. And Jim would be laughing so hard he couldn't hardly drive. And Jim was always pulling some kind of a prank too, even though at times he was serious. And he worked with Dad some too, and one day they were loading logs on a truck, and Dad and Jim were down close to underneath the truck where they were loading. And Dad had his back to the truck where the logs were. All of a sudden, Jim threw up his arms and started backpedaling like a log was falling off there. Well, there was no log falling off, but Dad thought there was. And Dad went tripping and falling over the logs to get out of the way. And poor old Jimmy just laughing so hard he could hardly stand up. But, you know, a lot of things with Jim, I really admired him. Because like you said, every time he met you, how's your courage? How's your courage? And so there's a lot of good memories with Jim.
So Jim had been sick quite a while. And one day he said, you know, he started telling me what he'd like in his funeral. He'd like it here at the Gertrude Church, where he first gave his heart to the Lord. And he had such a soft spot for these children that sang today and the others in our church. He really loved. And he told me, I want them to sing at the funeral. He didn't say why. He just wanted to encourage them in their music and their love for the Lord. So each of you that did that, I'd like to say, I'm so sorry. I'd like to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. And stay close to the Lord, keep singing for the Lord. And I guess I don't need to say anymore, but I would like to thank you again.
You know, most of you probably know this, but there's a little house right out here where he was born. And that's where he grew up, in that little house that, I'm surprised, is still standing. So not only did he go to church, this was like his backyard. And he did love it here and the people here, and he always considered it home.
I just want to say, I grew up with the Porter girls, but I don't really remember much of Jim other than he always had his guitar, and he was always singing in the living room. But I didn't really have my own relationship with him until recently, and he was over at Carrie and Adams doing work there with the excavator, and Carrie said, "Why don't you come over and see my parents? They're from Missouri." So I'm like, "Oh, cool, I haven't seen them in forever." So I came up, and at that point in my life, I'd gone through a lot of stuff, and I was just kind of turning things around for the Lord. And I told Jim, and we started a friendship. And for the past 3 years, he's really walked me through the Bible, any questions that I had. We have a house, and I was painting this house, and my phone went dead. Like, we literally talked for close to 3 hours about the book of Deuteronomy and the children of Israel. And he just was always so willing to share his love for the Lord and his knowledge of the Word. And it impacted my life, and it helped change me. So I just love your dad and your husband. And I know that God brought him into my life at the right time. So, he'll be missed.
Don't forget he was important. I know, don't forget it was important. Connie and I kind of formed an instant bond when I moved here, because I was from Washington and she was from Virginia. And we were both married Porters. And so aside of Jim that I haven't heard mentioned yet, is that we would go to their house and play cards. And Jim took his cards very, very seriously. But Danny didn't take cards seriously at all, but they were always partners. So Jim was always kind of trying to tell Danny how to play without getting in trouble for cheating. And so he kept doing this one game and over, and I could see Danny's face changing, and I looked at Jim and said, "You know, he is a Porter. When he gets mad, he's going to lose intentionally, you know." So Jim stopped trying to help him play. But we had a lot of good times playing cards with them, and it was a great time.
Jim was very special to me and my family. I think he was the first person I ever ran into from a church in this area at Harbor Freight, and he stopped me like, "Hey, I remember you." And you look familiar, but I don't know where you're from. I said, "I must be from church." Then I ran into him, I think, 3 other times in a short span since we moved here in the first month or so. But, you know, I remember spending a lot of New Year's Eves with him and Connie, and coming over to the house and playing Mexican dominoes as he taught my family. And one of the stories my daughter wanted to share, because they're nervous now all of a sudden, that we were playing, if you ever played Mexican dominoes, if your train is on, that means it's open. And I remember it was his turn, he was about to put something down, I said, well, wait a minute, what's this here? And my daughter just started laughing, and had a joke, and never forgot about that ever since. But, you know, Jim was you guys shared how much he really loved the Lord, and how much he even mentored me, as God has shared with me in the last few days, things that I've learned through him, and his courage not only to say it, but to do it, to do the hard things that he needed to do as a man, even in the church. And I appreciate that when he taught me. And, you know, another phrase that I always used to hear from him that nobody mentioned too is like, how are you doing today, Jim? It's like, oh, I'm getting older. We're all getting older, and I said, but he was always just someone that was so pleasant to be around. It's a real testimony that, you know, the times that my family spent, my daughter was very young at the time, 10 years ago, but they really enjoyed time with Grandpa Jim and then to Grandpa Connie. And so, you know, it's a real testament to him and how he spoke and carried himself. And I don't remember himself ever raising his voice above just the normal conversation. That's a real testament to him and his character and his connection to Christ. And so I know we'll see him in the kingdom, and there's so many more stories I think we can all share, but I just can't think about it right now. And so my heart goes out to you.
So my name is Alexander Porter. I'm the first grandson. Second, Alicia's a little bit older than me. She's a granddaughter. I might be the only Porter with some public speaking experience, but this will have to forgive me because it's a little bit of a rough day. It's been about a week since he's passed, and I haven't felt bad or sorrowful, and I've been wondering why. And I had a bit of a drive to get over here, and I was thinking about it, and if anyone that I've ever known or probably will ever meet is with the Lord, it would be JimPorter. And it makes me think, and the more that I think about it, the more that I think of Bible verses and things where, I believe it's in Acts, I just recently read it, but Paul was speaking about, I think it was Paul, was saying that he's going to be gone and that he might die, you know, ministering, spreading the word. And they were sorrowful and mourning for the words that he spake, and that's how I feel about Jim. I imagine that most everyone in here, if they ever had a question about what a verse meant, or, you know, what does this mean? What do you think about this? You could go to Jim and you could ask him and he'd be able to tell you. But what was it that Jesus said just a moment ago? You were saying that his burden is light and his yoke is easy. It's something where I'm sad that he's gone, but at the same time, I know he's with Christ. And I think that he would want all of us to focus on Christ and to be more loving and caring. I've never seen him vulnerable once in my life. There was only ever one time, and it was very recent. It was when I went and visited him in the hospital. And we were talking, and I said, well, Grandpa, I love you, but I know that you're in pain, and when it's your time to go, you'll go. And for the first time ever, I saw that he was afraid. He was afraid that he wasn't good enough for the Lord at the very end. He saw himself as a sinner and a wretch. That's not speaking ill of him, but that is just how devoted he was. That is how passionate he was about Christ. And truth be told, I've sinned since he passed away. I'm sure all of us have. We're all sinners, and we all need Christ. That's what he would want for us, is to turn our lives towards Christ, to love one another as best as we possibly can, to forgive. He said that the world and life here